I'm 76 years old, but I'm planning on living at least another 25 years. That's right, to 100 or more. Now, my dad died when he was 78, which is pretty normal for most American men, but I don't plan on following in his footsteps. Now, before you start rolling your eyes, hear me out. In spite of what most people think, the biggest threat to living that long actually isn't dying. It's that slow decline in function that most of us miss. Strength goes, balance goes, endurance drops, and mental sharpness starts to slip. Not all at once, just a little at a time. And that's the problem. By the time it shows up in everyday life, it's usually been going on for years. So most people don't catch it in time to do something about it. So today's video is going to be me walking through how I'm thinking about this at 76 years of age, the function I'm trying to hang on to, and the blueprint that I'm building to support that. If living to 100 sounds crazy, unrealistic, good, stick with me. So I want to clear something up right away. I get that living to 100 sounds unrealistic. For most of our lives, it kind of was. But given what we now know, having a real plan to try to get there is no longer crazy. That's the difference. This isn't wishful thinking. It's not optimism, and it's definitely not hope. It's a rational plan based on data. I think about this in probabilities, not certainties. I look at what increases the odds, what lowers the risk, and what actually moves the needle over time. And then I adjust as new information comes in, because the plan isn't fixed, it evolves. And that's important because longevity isn't about finding one magic thing and then locking it in forever. It's about paying attention, course correcting, and making better decisions as you go. That's what this video is about. Not wishful thinking, not shortcuts, just how I'm actually thinking about trying to make it to 100 and still doing the things that make life worth living. Because when I say I want to live to be 100, I need to be really clear about what I mean by that. I'm not talking about simply surviving. I'm talking about still being able to do the things that I love to do and living life full tilt, all out. I want to keep dancing. I want to keep working out and exercising. I want to keep having relationships and be able to engage sexually. I want to be thinking clearly and functioning cognitively at a high level. And I want to keep doing the stuff that I love: hiking, camping, river rafting, skiing, biking, all of it. That's the goal. Because if I'm technically alive at 100, but I can't do any of that, that's not success for me. The goal isn't simply survival. The goal is to be badass. Now, here's the important part. These things don't just magically keep happening. They depend on certain abilities still being there. For me to keep doing all of that, I need strength. I need mobility. I need real cardiovascular fitness, things like a solid VO2 max. I need sexual function. I need high cognitive function. And I need a low burden of age-related chronic diseases. If those abilities disappear, my whole life gets very small. And that's not the life I want. So when I think about living to 100, I'm not aiming at a number. I'm trying to preserve the functions that make that number worthwhile. Now, I want to address the obvious question. Why do I even think this is realistic? Because if this were 30 or 40 years ago, I probably wouldn't. This isn't science fiction. There's no magic involved here. But here's what's changed. We have better data than we've ever had. We have much better screening. We're much better at identifying risk early, long before things turn into major problems. And we're much better at slowing decline instead of waiting for things to break and then reacting. In other words, we can now be proactive, and that's a big deal. In past generations, people didn't really know what was going on inside their bodies until something went wrong. By the time symptoms showed up, the damage was already done. Today, we can see problems coming years or even decades earlier. Now, that doesn't guarantee anything. There are no certainties, but it absolutely changes the odds. It lowers the risk. We're able to intervene earlier, proactively. We can engage in protocols aimed at preventing rather than fixing. And that's the mindset I'm operating from. Better probabilities. That's why having a plan actually makes sense now in a way that it never really did before. Now, before we get into my actual plan for hitting 100, if you're looking for a practical way to stay healthier, live longer, or reduce your biological age, I run a free school community called the Longevity Lab. It's a bunch of like-minded people who are into the same kind of evidence-based, real-world approach to longevity. Several times a week, I post articles on longevity protocols and new discoveries in longevity science. There's also a growing library of free resources, including a couple of online courses, The Foundations of Longevity and Longevity Interventions. And for people who want to go deeper, there's optional paid content as well, like group coaching. If that sounds like your kind of thing, there's a link to join in the description. All right, let's get into my strategy for how I plan to live to 100. So this is the part where people usually expect me to start rattling off tips, and that's not what this is. What I actually have is a process, and this process is ongoing and ever evolving. I call it my longevity blueprint. And by the way, I've been calling that since before Brian Johnson showed up on the scene. My blueprint is personalized to me, and I'll show you how I'm building it. It's really simple. It's just 5 steps. To make those 5 steps easy to remember, I use an acronym, and it's called MAPIT. MAPIT stands for Measure, Analyze, Plan, Implement, and Track. So everything starts with testing. This is the measure step. We're not guessing. We're not going off of how we feel. We want real, accurate data here. So I'm looking at things like what my blood biomarkers are doing, where my hormones sit, what my cardiovascular risk looks like, and how well my metabolism is functioning, and the effect that it has on body composition, and how well my body actually performs when I'm asking it to do things. Because here's the thing, if you don't know what's going on under the hood, you're just guessing. And guessing means that you might be trying to fix the wrong things while the real problems go unchecked. And obviously, that doesn't produce the kind of results that we're looking for. Once I have the data, the next step is figuring out what that data actually means for me. This is the analyze step. I'm not interested in generic reference ranges or averages, and I'm definitely not interested in good for your age. Good for your age just means that you look like everyone else who's aging, and that's not the bar that I'm aiming for. So when I look at my numbers, I'm asking a different question. Are these markers merely acceptable, or are they actually optimized? Then I start looking for patterns, how different markers relate to each other. I'm paying attention to what looks solid and what looks like it might need work. And I'm really asking one main question. Where am I vulnerable and where am I doing okay? Because not everything is a problem, but the things that are problems, those are the ones that determine how fast your functionality disappears. Now, it's only after I've done the testing and have evaluated the results that I move on to the plan step. This is where I actually start to build the blueprint, and I do that by first deciding what actually deserves attention and what doesn't. Most of the time, the plan is about reducing the biggest risks first. It's about protecting my strength and mobility, keeping my cardiovascular fitness up, and preserving sexual and cognitive function. And here's something a lot of people miss. Not everything matters equally. Some things move the needle a lot. Some things barely matter at all. The trick is knowing the difference. Then comes the implementation step. This is where I actually do the work, where I execute the plan. This might mean training. It might mean changing how I eat. It might mean working on hormones or taking different supplements or other targeted interventions like red light therapy or stem cells or even HBOT. But none of this is random. I'm not doing things just because I heard about them on some podcast. Everything I do has a reason, tied back to the plan and to the testing results. If I can't explain why I'm doing something, I probably shouldn't be doing it. And then there's the part that almost everyone skips, the track step, and that includes course correction. I track everything, and I mean that. I track my test results, my tracking device data. I track my diet. I track my exercise. I track my sleep. I track all my protocols and their results. And then I retest. And this is important. I'm paying attention to trends across time, not outliers or one-off results. The specific numbers aren't as important as how those numbers are trending over time. For example, If I test on 3 different occasions and I find that a specific biomarker is optimal in all 3 tests, that's good, right? But if I'm paying attention to how they're trending and I notice that across time they are trending towards suboptimal, then I need to nip that in the bud. I need to address that before that biomarker becomes suboptimal. That's when I adjust. If something isn't working, I change it or I drop it. If something is working, I keep it. I might even expand on it. I'm not chasing perfection here. I'm trying to slow decline and keep function for as long as possible. That's the blueprint. Not magic, no shortcuts, just a process that I keep running and changing. Here's the thing to remember. This blueprint is built on data and it evolves over time. If I don't have the tracking data over time, then I don't have the data that I need for the blueprint to evolve. Okay, one quick side note here, and this is kind of important. I don't try to do everything, not because I'm closed off to new ideas, but because I'm selective. When I look at new longevity studies or new claims, I'm asking a simple question. Is there enough evidence here to warrant action, and does it apply to me right now? Animal studies fall into that same bucket too. I don't ignore them. Oftentimes, they're the first hint that something new might make a difference, but they're a signal, not proof. So sometimes I act and sometimes I wait. Same thing with supplements. I take a lot of supplements, but they're intentional. Nothing is in there just because it's available or because someone else is taking it. This is a long-term strategy for staying functional and independent. So I'm not chasing everything. I'm choosing carefully. Okay, so that's the process that I've been using. And the reason is real simple. It works. Using this map it approach has allowed me to make real measurable changes in my health. It's how I've improved my biological age, protected my strength and mobility, and kept those functions that actually matter to me. This approach doesn't give you any guarantees, but it does give you a way to make informed decisions, build out a longevity blueprint, and then make course corrections along the way based on real data. If this way of thinking resonates with you, I'd invite you to check out the free Longevity Lab. The link's right here. Okay, that's it for me. I'm out of here. See you guys next time.